Hello everyone and welcome to YOLO's Advent calendar. Now I wonder how many of you guys like fantasy, adventure and comedy. If you are looking for something lighter and entertaining for the winter holiday, then listen up. Because today I will be talking about a book, or to be precise, a whole series of books that I really enjoyed reading as a teenager and that I still love today. And that is the Discworld series of Terry Pratchett. It consists of 41 books, all of which are set in a surreal and silly fantasy world on the back of 4 elephants who stand on a gigantic turtle floating through space. And you can also see this in the picture. The characters in this world are getting into the most bizarre adventures, which are told in action-packed and brilliantly written stories. I recommend these books for those who already started high school, so those who are above 14, and also those who are fond of British humour, because however odd that world may sound, the places, the characters and the situations described in the books are often based on our own world. They are just shown in a different perspective. And this is just what makes it so humorous, witty, and entertaining. The bit that I'd like to read to you also shows this kind of humor. I'll read you a passage from the book Pyramids, which, as you might tell, is set in a place which is very much like our ancient Egypt. The late King Episimon the 27th opens his eyes. "I was flying," he whispered. "I remember the feeling of wings. What am I doing here?" He tried to stand up. There was a temporary feeling of heaviness, which suddenly dropped away so that he rose to his feet almost without any effort. He looked down to see what had caused it. "Oh dear," he said. The culture of the River Kingdom had a lot to say about death and what happened afterwards. In fact, it had very little to say about life, regarding it as a sort of inconvenient prelude to the main event and something to be hurried through as politely as possible. And therefore the pharaoh reached the conclusion that he was dead very quickly. The sight of his mangled body on the sand below him played a major part in this. He rubbed the analog of his hands. "Well, this is it. This is where it gets interesting. This is where I start to really live." Behind him a voice said, "Good morning." The king turned. "Hello," he said. "You'd be, Death," said Death. The king looked surprised. "I understood that Death came as a 3-headed giant scarab beetle," he said. Death shrugged. "Well, now you know." "Anyway," said the pharaoh, "I expect we'd better be going." "Where to?" "Don't you know?" "I am here only to see that you die at the appointed time. What happens next is up to you." "Well," the king automatically scratched his chin, "I suppose I have to wait until they've done all the preparations and so forth. Mummified me and built a bloody pyramid. Do I have to hang around here to wait for all that?" "I assume so." Death clicked his fingers, and a magnificent white horse ceased its grazing in some of the garden greenery and trotted towards him. "Oh, well, I think I shall look away. They take all the squishy inside bits out first, you know." A look of faint worry crossed his face. Things that had seemed perfectly sensible when he was alive seemed a little suspect now that he was dead. It's to preserve the body so that it may begin life anew in the netherworld," he added, in a slightly perplexed voice. "And then they wrap you in bandages. At least that seems logical. He rubbed his nose. But then they put all this food and drink in the pyramid with you. Bit weird, really. He tried to think and found that it was surprisingly easy. New ideas were pouring into his mind in a cold, clear stream. They had to do with the play of light on the rocks, the deep blue of the sky, the manifold possibilities of the world that stretched away on every side of him. Now that he didn't have a body to importune him with its insistent demands, the world seemed full of astonishments. But unfortunately, among the first of them was the fact that much of what you thought was true now seemed as solid and reliable as marsh gas. And also that, just as he was fully equipped to enjoy the world, he was going to be buried inside a pyramid. When you die, the first thing you lose is your life. The next thing is your illusions. Thank you very much for listening to me today. As you can hear, the level of the book is quite advanced, so I recommend it to those who want a bit of a challenge when reading English. If you find that the book is a bit hard for you still in English, but you would still be interested, then you can also find this book translated into Hungarian. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to me today, and I wish you all a happy holiday.